Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on how to build sticky social features without slowing your team. I'm Bam, Product Marketing Manager at social.plus, and I'm here with Italo, our Senior Solution Engineer.
Hi everyone. Hi Bam, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm excited for today's session. How are you, Italo?
Everything perfect. Also excited for this session and to see how we build this type of stickiness within environments.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to uncover today. So let's get started. So, in today's session, we will be going over what makes community user experience truly sticky and how do you actually balance speed, quality, and customization. And a live walkthrough from Italo of the dynamic UI in action. So, this session is perfect for anyone interested in community led growth and in-app social user experience. All right, so let's talk about the real challenge most teams are facing right now, which is retention. We spend time during acquisition, getting users through the door, and then they just vanish, right? And nearly half of all apps are abandoned within the first month. And it's not because the product doesn't work, it's just that the engagement isn't there. So this shift is happening, and teams are realizing that retention is just as important as acquisition and maybe even more important, especially when growth slows or ad cost goes up. So the bigger question here is once someone signs up, uses your app, is how do we actually keep them? And one way to think about this is the difference between product led growth and community led growth. Traditionally, growth has been product led, and for good reason. You build something great and let users experience value on their own, and the product sells itself. This is how Slack, Dropbox, and Notion grew. They are self serve, no friction, and bottoms up adoption. And product growth is about usability. It gets users in the door, and it's incredibly effective, and it is most often transactional. So once they're inside, they still need reason to stay. And that's where community-led growth comes in. In a community-led growth model, your users aren't just consumers, they're contributors, collaborators, advocates. They share knowledge, inspire each other, and build real loyalty because now they're part of something. So community-led growth is relational. It's about who users connect and build relationship with. So if product-led growth is about letting the product do the selling, community-led growth is letting your users power the movement. So the key takeaway here is that product-led growth brings users in, community-led growth keeps them engaged. So the best teams today aren't choosing between the two. They're using both to build momentum and belonging. So you would think, okay, how do you actually build that sense of community inside the product, and what does it look like as a real feature experience, right? And that would often be in the social layer, social features like chats, feeds, groups, forums are really the retention drivers. And in fact, companies that embedded in app community features saw up to a 40% lift in retention. In-app communities and social interactions can significantly boost user stickiness and lifetime value. So what about it makes a community user experience sticky then? Even though I said that social features are retention drivers, we also need to understand that it's not just about adding social features, but about designing user behavior. So sticky user experience is what happens when users don't just visit, they come back, they contribute, and they care if they're missed. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you create emotional investment, when the community becomes a part of the product value and when returning becomes a habit. So, in short, sticky user experience is about building that emotional and functional dependencies. And so, how do we actually design for that kind of stickiness? First is about not just designing features, but designing dependency loops. That could be something like unlocking content only after posting or needing feedback from peers to finish a project. Figma has a great example actually. Their plugin and template ecosystem actually lives in the community. So if you want to move faster as a designer, you go back to the community and that keeps users going back. So two main things here you can ask yourself are that does the user need the community to progress? And are key moments in the user journey enriched by peer activity? Next is about reducing friction to engage. A lot of community user experience or journey dies because participation is just like too much effort. But if you actually reduce that friction, make it lightweight, casual, and rewarding, people will actually engage. And that could come in forms like emoji reactions, polls, stickers, things that users can do without overthinking it. So two main things here is that you have to ask like, are there lightweight ways to engage and is contributing easier than just lurking? And lastly, that's about making community matter and meaningful. So when users open your app, can they find what matters to them right away or do they bounce because it's noisy or disorganized? And sticky community user experience should be relevant and new users should instantly see right away whether that's top content, trending posts, or the most helpful replies. And in fact, other than that, recognition also plays a huge role. And it has to be something that reflects real contribution or leadership. So think about it like Stack Overflow, where you earn recognition by helping others, or Notion, where they spotlight ambassadors who grow the ecosystem. So again, two main things here are that can new users instantly find the best content for them? And does recognition reflect actual contribution or leadership? Now that we know what makes community user experience sticky, we still have another problem statement, right? When it comes to reality of building a highly engaged app, and that's the pressure to ship fast. Teams are under huge pressure to move fast, ship new features while the opportunity is hot. But building a full featured feed can take months, but then you also can't just rush it because users today expect smooth, responsive, and real time experiences. So you need to ensure high quality user experiences. And then comes the third piece, which is customization, where every team wants their community to feel unique, right? So having to balance it all, you're kind of like trapped in a triangle. You want to move fast without sacrificing quality and customization. So with this, the question becomes, how do you actually solve this? How do you balance it all without choosing? So Italo, how do we actually balance the problem between, speed, quality, and customization? What do you usually like tell new or current clients about this kind of dilemma?
Well, first of all, it depends on the approach.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea here is to make this implementation as smooth as possible. For that purpose, usually we ask the use case. If it's something that's going to be very unique, we provide SDKs. So this SDKs can be added or implemented into any UI that you have, if it's on your application, if it's on the web, and so on. So this is one approach. The second approach is using our UI kits. We provide UI kits which have a modular approach with different components that you can use again based on your use case. But in this case, you won't need to start from scratch. You will have a base which you can directly use and will help you accelerate and have this, let's say, upgradability, and also flexibility to build new customizations upon something that already exists. And then there's the third approach, which is a mixed one, in which you will have our UI kit, but as it is open source, you can change most of it. So based on the use case, you can customize as many parts as you want. Sometimes you have a very, very unique case in which there's a feature or something that the customer might require. So they can focus on only on that particular feature, as the rest is already solved by our UI kit. So this is the type of balance that we try to portray. The idea here is, first of all, to identify what's the best approach, and then based on that, we can recommend which is the best technology to use and the best tool for that purpose. In that case, the question would be only based on the type of language that you're going to use, and for that purpose, we have different types of UI kits, which are continuously being enhanced, and we're always releasing new features. So this can also help accelerate any potential, let's say, new inclusion for the future, as we know that community is not something static, it's something that's continuously evolving, the same way for the part of engagement.
I think that's really important when you talk about how like community isn't static. Like I 100% agree. Like it's always evolving. So having the ability to pin down your use case and then pick the right approach through like modular system and be able to customize it is really really important. So yeah.
Totally, and the good side on what we provide in general terms is you have a tool set of features. You do not need to implement them all as a whole. You can implement, let's say, one right now, social feed with certain posts and things like that, and eventually, once you reach a engagement level and you want to also add a new feature, you can add it, and that will not affect, let's say, the plan you have with us. This is a set of features that you will have available. It depends on how you want to approach and how you want to evolve.
Hmm. Okay, I think this is really interesting, and then I'm curious to see like what this actually looks like. So I think we can try to see this in action. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I'll share directly what we call our console.
Mhm.
Our console is like our back office. You can see here we have the sidebar with the different type of features that we provide. The idea here is we're going to focus on the UI perspective. Here, as you can see, we have what we call the dynamic UI. This has two main reasons. The first one is for design purposes and for you and your team to be able to understand how our features can look on our UI kit since the beginning. Please remember that the UI kit requires certain implementation. So sometimes maybe the business side wants to evaluate certain characteristics before moving with the developer agency or before telling their developer team to start with certain integrations. So with the dynamic UI, you can get an idea of how it looks basically on a mobile set as well as a web one, and you'll have an idea of the features that we have. For example, here you'll see the post, the comments, the likes. This is based on our current UI kit, for example. You can see the explore part where you see the different potential communities, which is similar to Facebook style that you can join if you want. And you can see my communities, for example. This is just as a baseline so that you can get a better approach. You can see also the user profile details, if that's the case, and so on. Now, this is the first detail from the dynamic UI. The second detail is we know sometimes you only need to implement social UI and just certain details of customization, maybe color, maybe titles, subtitles, and so on, and that's it. Those are, let's say, quick customizations. You only need to implement the UI on our UI kit on your application, and then do this type of config. Usually, you do this on your side on a config file, depending on the type of language. However, here, the dynamic UI also helps you accelerate this by only implementing a function that we call sync network. If you implement this function from our documentation directly into the UI kit that you might be using from our side, the UI kit will be able to be customized from this side, which also makes it flexible, not only in the sense of what you will have, but also in the sense of what your, let's say, product managers, different business type of participants will be able to interact without the need of having a developer team or that type of approach. So for example, if I go and let me change from here that we're on the community and we go to the dynamic UI directly here that you can see. If we go to our UI kit, which I will share the page right now, you can see that this is the style of our UI kit. As you can see, it has a similar style to Facebook as a baseline. And based on this, you can customize anything you require. Now, the idea here, as you can see, you are seeing a web version. You'll see different community leaders or the different community to join and so on, which communities I'm part of. Let's imagine I want to do some fast customization. This is already deployed on an environment that we have. And let's imagine I go back to my console. You already saw that the navigation style it's blue. Let's imagine that now I change it to red. I just put apply directly. You'll see that first of all, as a design purpose, you'll have an idea of how it will look. This is for the part of mobile. If I put publish, this means that the changes are now live and they will connect with this functionality that we have, the sync network. And once we go back to the UI kit, you'll see that now the navigation details have changed to red, the color that I have assigned. Again, if we do the same action, but now let's think that we go to the background. And I want to play with the background and put it, let's imagine, green color. I want to apply, oh, sorry, give me 1 second. Let's put a green color here. No, sorry, it got reset. Let's put red. And then let's put here green for the part of the background to see how it's also getting affected directly. I'll try to play a bit with this. Okay, let's imagine I'm putting purple one, apply. Well, aesthetically, it doesn't look very well, but the idea here is the flexibility to see the changes in real time. And then if you click on publish, again, you'll see in our web UI kit, for example, how the change was done almost at the same time. Because we have this functionality that's helping you just with basic configuration of styles and details that we have and we are showing directly from this dynamic UI. This is basically what we can provide if you want a quick application or you want a quick implementation and you do not need to do several changes and you agree with, let's say, the basic details of a community environment and so on. And now if you want, so for example, if we go back again to the console and let's imagine I want to settle everything as it was before, you'll see the design as normal as I showed previously. We do again publish. And if I go again to our environment here in the UI, you'll see that it became as we saw it at the beginning. This is just a quick example of something that you can do with our tools. This is something for easy configuration and fast changes on configuration details. But besides this, again, depending on the use case, you can use this open code UI kit to change different details and according to that have a different format, a more complex style, or even something that's more unique according to your use case.
So with this Italo, this is more of like low level customization where anyone who gets access to UI Kit 4 would get this as like a blank slate, right? But if someone wants to make it more uh, related to the brand or closer to the brand, they could do a higher level of customization and make it fit with their what their
Totally.
brand looks like, right?
Yes,
Oh,
totally.
awesome.
So yes, the idea here is we're sort of balancing flexibility, what we can help do as fast as possible, but always there might be the need of having certain details to be adapted. Again, it depends, but for this purpose, you have different phases, and it's important to get aligned with the product team on the customer side. Usually what we suggest is to have an alignment mutually so we can help them assess which should be the first phase, or let's say the MVP, then go to the second phase with the different changes and so on. So it's something that can get aligned with the customer roadmap, and also with their vision and the goals that they have for the community environment and the features that they will use from our side.
Nice. I think let's pass the mic to the floor if anyone has any questions regarding the topics we've discussed today or our dynamic UI. So please feel free to drop any questions in the chat if you have any. Let's give everyone a few seconds. Okay, seems like everything is clear. I think today is a quick session on, how do we think more about retention and how do you actually balance between, quality, speed, and customization. And I hope today you guys get some insights and a glimpse into how dynamic UI could be a part of that. And yeah, thanks for joining our quick session today. And a little thank you for your time as well.
Sure, no, thanks to you, Bam. And well, the idea here is, as you mentioned, let's make the part of communities and social features flexible and sort of balancing the details that should be required so that it's easier to implement and also eventually to customize if needed.
Yes, totally. All right. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to shoot us any question anytime to our team. And yeah, thanks for all of your time today.
Thank you.